Welcome to the Purple Nation podcast. A podcast reminding us that we live in a diverse nation diverse in faith, diverse in culture, diverse in politics, and diverse in thought. Though we are a diverse nation, we are one nation, not a red nation, not a blue nation, but a purple nation. Well, hello again, Purple Nation. Today, we are going to talk about a subject that is a worldwide subject. I know that the podcast is Purple Nation, and we're going to talk about how this particular subject is affecting the nation. And we're going to talk about how we can get to the point where we're not a separate and divided nation, but that we're one nation, a purple nation. And that issue that we're going to talk about today is COVID. Now, in the past, if you look at our history, there have been times when we as a nation have come together. There have been times when we as a nation have determined that we need to work as one in order to accomplish a particular goal. Of course, World War II comes to mind for many right away, but there have been other times. And pandemics, if you think about it, pandemics are something that really should bring us together. They really should put us on a road where we say, okay, what can we do as one to conquer, to beat this thing? Now, while I do put some blame for the division that we are dealing with our leadership, with our leaders, our political leaders, I don't let us off the hook, because you see, our leaders serve us. Our leaders mirror us, especially in an elected situation. Fact of the matter is that many politicians see their job to be getting reelected. And so to get reelected, they're going to cater to us. They're going to do what they think they need to do to get reelected. And so while a portion of the blame for the division that we are dealing with during this COVID pandemic is with them, we cannot let ourselves off the hook. So what should have brought us together in COVID has become deeply partisan and deeply divisive. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to talk about some facts. People talk about alternative facts. No, these, when we look up the definition of a fact, it is that which is true, that which can be proven. And so we're going to talk about some facts about COVID, how we can deal with these situations, and what we can do to get away from this us versus them mentality and come together as one nation, a purple nation. So let's talk about the first uncomfortable fact, and that is that COVID is going to be with us. We have got to learn, at least in the near term is several years, to live with COVID. Just like we live with rhinoviruses, which cause the common cold, just like we live with the flu. We're going to have to learn to live with this. And since we're going to have to learn to live with this, we have to accept that highly restrictive measures to combat COVID are not going to work, because human beings, one, are social creatures. If we are not, even an introvert such as myself, we have our social side to us, and if we're forced to put that on a hanger and put it away, then what you have is an increase in mental illness, and we don't want that. We don't want that. Also, statistics show that for every 1% that we go up in unemployment, uh, that people die from that. So just like people die from COVID, people die from a bad economy. And so we can't just have these uh, harsh and restrictive measures uh, as we deal with this virus that is going to be with us for a while. So the first thing that we have to accept that COVID is going to be with us. So the second fact is we have to be honest about vaccinations. Now, when I say that, depending on what side of the debate you're on, you're thinking, okay, here comes some crazy vaccination theory. Or if you're on the other side, here comes someone who's going to tell us what we have to put in our body. And both of you would be wrong. When I say be honest about vaccinations, let's be honest about what vaccinations do. Okay, so when we look at the data, what we know about vaccinations is that if a person is vaccinated, that they have less of a chance of getting seriously ill and thus less of a chance of being hospitalized. That being said, the vaccination does not guarantee that you will not get seriously ill. It does not guarantee that you will not be hospitalized. It just lessens those chances. What the vaccine does not do, and this is important because when we first got into this, the thought process was we'll have the vaccine and the vaccine will prevent illness. Well, we know that that's not the case. The vaccine does not prevent illness. It lessens the seriousness of illness. The vaccine also does not prevent you from giving the disease to someone else because the vaccine does not prevent you from carrying it. So that being the case, another thing that we have to admit is that when we look at the people who have chosen to be unvaccinated, they are far more of a danger, if you will, to themselves than they are to you. Because when we first started this vaccination process, it was the call was get vaccinated so that you can protect your children. Get vaccinated so that you can protect your spouse. Get vaccinated so that you can protect grandma and grandpa, because all of us want grandma and grandpa to be around as long as they can. Well, okay, maybe I shouldn't say all of us, but most of us would want our grandparents to be around as long as they can. But we know now that being vaccinated is not going to protect grandma and grandpa. It's not going to protect our spouse. It's not going to protect our children because we can still get the virus and we can still give the virus to others. And when it comes to vaccines, we just need to be honest about that. Now, how do we come together when we have two very different opinions? We have those that say they will never be vaccinated. Sarah Palin says she'll be vaccinated over her dead body. We have people that say I'm just not going to do it. Kyrie Irving has said, "Look, I'm not doing it. I'm just not going to do it." And then we have those that believe that not only should you be vaccinated, if necessary, you should be forced to get vaccinated. And if you don't get vaccinated, you need to be ostracized and you need to be removed from society. So if we have these two different views, how do we come together as one nation, as a purple nation? Well, what we have to do is, like I said, so now we're honest. We know that COVID's going to be with us for a while. Let's be honest about the vaccines. And if we're honest about the vaccines, then we say, okay, I want to protect myself. I want to protect myself, so I'm going to get the vaccine because I feel like the vaccine protects me. But we also have to get to the point where we say, okay, but we're not going to force people. We're not going to force people to do this. in terms of mandates. Now, I do believe in individual choice, and so if let's use airlines for an example. If United Airlines wants to mandate that all of their employees have the vaccine and that you must have the vaccine to fly on United Airlines, then so be it. If Southwest decides that vaccination is a choice and you don't have to be vaccinated to fly on our airlines, then so be it. And then what happens is that we as individuals, we as a people decide, okay, I'm going to fly United because I want everybody vaccinated, or I'm going to fly Southwest because I don't care about the vaccination status. We just have to come together and agree that we're just like we do with the flu vaccine. We're going to allow for those who want to have the vaccine to take it. Those who do not desire the vaccine do not need to take it. And private companies will do what they do. Everybody in my doctor's office, the doctor's office that I go to, the flu shot is required. Okay, everybody, and I would assume now that means the COVID vaccine is going to be required. At another doctor's office, it might be different. I guess it basically would come down to, well, let's let our fellow citizens live. Let's not try to ostracize anyone. Let's not try to remove anyone from the economy. Let's talk about masks. Now, once again, we have to be honest and understand that with the newness of COVID, that information is given to us as people learn about it. And so things have changed about how people relate information about this disease. What we thought we at one time has changed. We had a 14-day quarantine. It went to a 10-day. Now it's a 5-day. And that's all because we are learning new things. We also have to admit that sometimes it's not a matter of not knowing. It's a matter of, quite frankly, misinformation. Now, what do I mean by that? Let's think back to March of 2020. In March of 2020, people started wearing masks because they were worried about COVID. And we were told by the CDC, and we were told by Dr. Fauci, and we were told by other leaders, you don't need to wear a mask. Don't worry about a mask. Now, we later found out that the reason that they did that, and they have admitted this, is because they were worried about a shortage of PPE for those frontline healthcare workers that might need it. And that, I understand that. And we all should understand that. The mistake that was made was the lie. Appeal to the American people and say, look, we're going to need, people are going to get sick. They're going to be in the hospital and we're going to need this PPE. And so don't worry about wearing a mask. Let's make sure that the people who need it will get it. Now, I know what you're thinking. But some people aren't going to listen. Well, you're always going to have some people that don't listen, but it doesn't damage your credibility when you're telling the truth. What do we know? We know that, well, maybe cloth masks in general are not that effective. We do know that N95s and KN95s that they do work, and they work very effectively because they give you a good seal. So where should we fall down on the masking issue? Well, first of all, we need to stop making wearing a mask or not wearing a mask a symbol of what tribe you are a member of. I'm a good liberal. I'm a good progressive, so I'm wearing my mask. I'm a good conservative. I'm a good libertarian, and I'm going to refuse to wear my mask. No, this is not a political issue. And we need to stop making it that. We need to stop making it this badge of honor that you wear or don't wear your mask. The next thing is we need to allow for more local control. And that's for whatever side of the aisle that you are on. Let's use schools for an example. I don't believe that governors should be coming down with mask mandates for all of schools. I also don't believe that governors should be coming down telling local schools that you can't have a mask mandate. We now, as a conservative, I'm one that says I believe in local control. And so put that control back in the hands of the local citizens. I would even say this to Governor Youngkin in Virginia, or any of the governors, or I can't think of the governor's name right now, and Gavin Newsom, Governor Newsom in California. I would say, look, when it comes to these schools, when it comes to these local municipalities, let them make the decision. And for school boards in particular, I would say, listen to your constituencies. Now, follow the science. But here's the thing. When I say follow the science, it means follow all of the science. Don't just follow the science that appeals to you. Don't follow the science that you like and ignore the science that you don't. And both sides are guilty of this. Yes, both sides are guilty of this. The right is guilty of it. The left is guilty of it. All of you are guilty of it. All of us are guilty of it. If the science is saying something you don't want it to say, then you still follow the science. I'll give you another example. Let's go back to airplanes. Airplanes are probably, in terms of air quality, one of the safest places you could be. Again, the science shows us this. They're extremely safe. So if we're following the science, the science would say, okay, you probably don't need a mask. But once again, personal choice and the choice of the company. Indoors, crowded areas, you might. So how do we come together as a Purple Nation? Well, one, I believe that you allow for that local control. And I would say, as a people, I do believe it's important to take into consideration others. So when it comes to masking, I think that maybe one thing we could do is use the East Asian attitude toward masking. In other words, when you look at a lot of East Asian countries and you see people with masks on, it isn't the well that are wearing the mask. It's those who are ill and they are wearing that. Maybe they have a cold, maybe they have the flu. In this case now, maybe they have COVID. If you're not feeling well, wearing the mask in order to protect those around you. And maybe that's the route we need to take. I know for myself personally, that's one thing that I'm going to start doing is, especially, I'm not feeling a little bit wet. It may just be a cold, but you know what? Maybe I should mask up, not to protect myself because I've already got the cold, but to protect those around me. And I think if we follow that attitude, allowing for local control, and starting to say, okay, I'm going to think about my fellow human being, and I'm not feeling well, so I'm going to mask now because I'm not feeling well. I think we can come together. Now, the bottom line is that we have to stop being so tribal. This whole COVID time, there's been this talk about red states and how they're handling it, and blue states and how they're handling it, and we were looking at the data and we're cherry picking the data, and we're saying, okay, but this state is doing so much better than this state, and it's because of this or it's because of that. And then once again, you look at the data and you cherry pick it. So if you're more left leaning, you talk about California and New York and New Jersey and how they've handled this, and you talk about South Dakota and Texas and Florida and how they've bungled it. Now, and if you're more right leaning, you talk about Texas and Florida and South Carolina and how well they've done and how much freedom they've allowed for their people. And you talk about California and New Jersey and New York and how they've locked their people down and they're still getting sick. But again, it's all about the data that you're looking at and how you choose to cherry pick it. When we can't do that, again, we have to be honest with each other. Look, COVID's going to be with us. We have to make a decision as a society. How are we going to deal with this? Now, I believe that you deal with it by continuing to offer the vaccinations for those who want to be vaccinated, but also we need to lean on our leadership. We need to lean on the pharmaceutical companies and say, it's not a one size fits all. It's not a one answer to the problem. We need treatments, because even though the vaccination helps, we can still get sick, and we could still get seriously sick in some cases. How do we treat this? And we need to all come together and say, okay, yeah, we're going to continue to offer the vaccinations, but we also need to offer treatments, just like we have treatments for the flu. When it comes to masks, allow for local control. Allow for individual decision-making. And then as an individual, be responsible. Each of us be responsible. If you're not feeling well, stay home. If you can. I understand financial situations might necessitate you going to work. But if you can, if you don't feel well, stay home. And definitely if you don't feel well, now it's time to put the mask on, because now you are protecting others. It's not about yourself now. It's about you're protecting others. So I think we could all agree to do that. Can't we? Can't we? Because we can't just have a nation where you've got the red nation handling COVID this way. You got the blue nation handling COVID this way. But we're all supposed to be one nation. So, my friends, let's accept that COVID's going to be here with us. Let's continue to offer the vaccinations. Let's find good treatments. Let's allow for local control. And yes, let's take our fellow sister and brother into account and do things like when we're not feeling well, staying home or wearing a mask, to make sure that we keep the people around us safe. Let's be, when it comes to COVID, let's be one nation, not a red nation, not a blue nation, but one purple nation.